Welcome back to MMA Latest. We're here for the UFC Vegas 9 recap where Overeem defeated Sakai. Here with Kurta and Gary, who's making his debut on the channel. Gary, how are you? Good weekend?
Thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, good weekend. Plenty of fights going on. Massive UFC card, of course. All 7 of them. So, yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Kurta, did you enjoy it? You're a big fan of MMA. We're watching a lot of EMC this weekend, but how was you towards the UFC? 7-fight card. We lost 2 on the night. It was a sad weekend, wasn't it, for the UFC?
Man, it was a rough weekend. No, it started out like we lost a few fights. Like this, I got some of the cancelled fights for this were crazy. Like I think we had 1, 2, 3. I think we had 8. Yeah, we had 8 cancelled fights in total. And what was it? 2 on the day? 1 on the day? Right? Yeah, DeLima was on the day, and so was the Turner fight. So losing those 2 was just that was heartbreaking on its own.
There was more cancellations than there was fights.
Yeah, it's nuts, like.
Yeah.
And then you have, like, it pulled through. At the end of the day, it pulled through. Like, it was a fantastic card at the end of the day. Thank God, it surpassed everyone's expectations.
Yeah, we've had a lot of them recently where we've had a couple cancelled. I think the Jessica I card comes to mind where it was a lot on paper. People were almost crucifying the card because of the names that were on it, but in reality, it gave us some brilliant fights. And we get that sometimes. You may not get the Conor McGregor fights. You may not get the George Masvidal fights, but you're going to get fights that these guys probably wouldn't have got a chance in that sort of card. And the fact we've got a 7-fight card in the UFC Apex, it brings a lot of names and a lot of eyes to a period where they probably wouldn't have got it in usual circumstances.
Yeah, you get the fact now that people who wouldn't have been previously on a main card are getting a chance to jump up and they're instantly on a main card, obviously for circumstances that are quite abnormal, but they're still getting this massive opportunity with a lot of viewership.
There's people being called up out left and right as well, people that probably wouldn't have been called up before, so they're getting this big opportunity to get on a massive show, get a little bit of money in their pocket, and yeah, so there is a plus side to it. Obviously, that's just looking at the silver lining, but there is definitely some opportunities coming out for fighters out of it.
Definitely. We'll go straight into the main event then. Alistair Overeem, Augusto Sakai came in on a bit of a hot streak there. Contender Series alumni who, the Contender Series as we've gone through August, it's been on. And we're seeing a lot more names coming from that Contender Series coming in. And obviously, I think it's the first main event from the Contender Series as well. But Overeem, the Demolition Man, got the job done. Gary, how did you make of him on Saturday night?
He didn't start off the best. I was a little bit scared of his defence. He comes out with that really boxing style of defence where he's just like covering up the whole time. And for MMA, we've seen that not always work, but just his veteran mentality comes through. He manages to figure out whatever it was that was making him lose that, managed to turn it around, switched into the wrestling, just shows that he's got so many aspects to his game. And at 40 years old, yeah, it's some achievement to be able to still get these sort of wins.
Yeah, 100%. We saw off camera that, Overeem's had more losses than Sakai's had fights, Kurta.
I was literally just about to say it. And that's not including his kickboxing fights.
Yeah, 100%.
He's the experience, the wealth of experience Overeem has is ridiculous. At the first round, I had a feeling he kind of started. So I remember she was lucky to see him fight live once. And he started really, really slow. It was the fight where I lost. He started slow in that fight, picked it up, and then pulled off the win, finished him. It was like that again. I kind of expected for this fight, it seemed as though it was going to be all about pacing because it's 5 rounds, the 2 tough guys, and Overeem knows what it feels like. Sakai doesn't. So, the first 2 rounds was quite. I kind of expected the first round to go in Sakai's way. The second, I was surprised Overeem didn't pick it up a little bit more. Then when you go into 3, 4, and then ultimately 4 was kind of the one I was thinking, okay, Overeem probably finished it. Like it was turned into a bloodbath, and then the 5th round came along, and yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah,
great fight.
It almost reminded me of Teixeira versus Anthony Smith, where Anthony Smith came out the fastest of the 2. And then Glover uses experience, even though we know how experienced Anthony Smith is. Teixeira almost took over the fight in those later rounds and got the finish early in that 5th, as did Overeem on Saturday night, Gary.
Yeah, and it was actually a really good stoppage as well. It was, I know there was a little protest out of Sakai at the end of it, but it was really just the way he was covering up. He'd already been warned. He was just having a single handover, and it just shows that Overeem knew that those first 2 rounds maybe went to Sakai. There was maybe a little bit of closeness in at least one of them, but he just knew that if he chases the finish, there's not going to be any question marks about that. And he doesn't have to do that at that point. It was most likely going to be 3 rounds up, but you never know. Slipping a banana peel, something could happen, and he just knew that he had to finish it. And yeah, definitely great wherewithal and understanding of the game from Overeem to go for the finish like that.
Yeah, definitely. Sakai actually outstruck him for the first 3 rounds by quite a good margin. It was only that round 4, 49 strikes for Overeem compared to 20, and obviously he got that takedown in that 4th round, and that's really where the fight, was really won. You almost could question whether Sakai comes back out for that 5th round, because he took a lot of damage at the end of that 4th, and 10 seconds more, that fight probably would have got stopped there and then. Quilter, what do you make of Sakai? Obviously, was coming in on a hot streak. I feel like the heavyweight division, albeit it's a very talented one, it's a very thin one, and we see now, especially in those top 7, 8, a lot of them have faced each other. So Sakai, what's next for him?
Next for him, oh god, probably not someone that's the same kind of experience as Overeem anyway. Let me take. I haven't really thought about that one too much because he's after coming off the fight with Ivanov. Who's in the rankings, Mitch?
You got Alexei Olenik's in there. You got Alexander Volkov. You've got, of course, let's have a double check. We've got in the heavyweight rankings. We have let's see. We've got Cyril Garner's fighting soon. We've got Walt Harris in there. Junior Dos Santos.
Yeah, it's he flew up fairly quickly. Like, to go from Ivanov to Overeem's a very big bit of a step up. So maybe not even someone in that top 15. Even maybe have someone, I guess, Onyek, Volkov, along those lines, still experienced high level fighters. But no, I didn't even give that one much thought. I'll actually admit that one. Don't know what's next for him.
You're saying about him fighting with a lot of experience against Overeem, but just looking now, Ivanov, Marcin Tybura and Andrei Arlovski obviously have tons of experience as well, so he's just been getting thrown in non-stop with guys that have got tons of fights. Every single one of them, except Marcin Tybura, have more wins than he has fights. So, he's just been fighting proper experienced guys. So I like that Walt Harris suggestion. I think that's probably someone a little bit good. Maybe doesn't have as much experience off the top. Maybe he's got 40 fights and I didn't realise it. But I think he doesn't have the most amount of fights in the world. So yeah, maybe someone, because they had this fight against Chase Sherman as well. That sort of level was quite good for him to prove it. And yeah, maybe keep him around that for 1 or 2 fights just to figure himself out a little bit more.
Yeah, it's difficult because, as we said, you've got Francis Ngannou at number 1 in that ranking, and he's beat everyone below him other than Derek Lewis at the moment. And you're looking there, you've got Rosenstreich, who lost 5 rounds to Overeem but still came out with the win. You're probably going to put that fight up against again because obviously Derek Lewis is going against Blades. Overeem, you can't put up against Ngannou because what happened previously, and Ngannou should be fighting for the title. Now, there was John Jones mentioned, Brock Lesnar mentioned, but I'd imagine you want to rebook that Rosenstreich fight and see what happens there.
I don't know if I fancy it for Overeem this time. What it was looking like with Sakai, if you changed Sakai out and swapped him with Rosenstreich in those rounds, I reckon that fight gets finished even in the first round. But then again, you could also say that's just Overeem's intelligence. Like, he maybe was just playing it that way and knew Sakai couldn't get to him. But with Overeem's chin, I don't think he can ever play that game and say he knows that guy's not going to be able to hurt him because he's lost to the likes of Ben Rothwell and stuff like that. So nobody can get to him. Walt Harris nearly took his head off in the last fight, so...
Yeah, that's a fair point. Walt Harris probably could have got a stoppage within that fight that they had, and of course, he gassed himself out, and Overeem, capitalised on that. But again, that was a very close fight. Maybe you run that back, perhaps, with Walt Harris on the full camp.
Yeah, maybe that's an option. It would be a harsh one for Overeem because he came back from hell in that fight to be able to pull it out, and then you're like, oh, that was good, Overeem, but let's run it back again, mate.
It's either that or Ngannou.
Yeah, I'd say Walt Harris is looking pretty good now.
Yeah, we'll have a quick look at the statistics. 106 strikes out of 131 for Overeem, 120 out of 196 for Sakai. So even then, he put the pressure on. He got the most out of it, but it came away with the loss and 3 takedowns for Overeem, really, he took it. He took that win and took the pressure off himself once he got those takedowns in that 4th round quarter.
Yeah, man, he looked fantastic in the 4th round. It was like, as I said earlier, it was kind of that was the moment. That was kind of the defining round in a sense. That kind of you expected it from there. That's when Overeem started coming to life. He was busting them open. He was dominating them. He looked fantastic, and that was kind of the beginning. The end, like, could have been over near the end at the end of the 4th there, but yeah, it spilled into the 5th round, and it got even worse for Sakai.
Yeah, do you still think he maybe had that one last title push in him? Obviously, this is the big talking point for him continually. He's almost doing the DC route. With DC came out and said if he's not fighting for titles, he's going to retire. But do you think he's probably 2 wins away, isn't he, really, from a title shot?
He's about 2 wins. Didn't he say in his post-fight press conference, or he said at some point that he sees himself fighting for another? He's never thought. He hasn't played with the idea yet. He's thinking another few years. So, like, you could realistically, going from what he's saying, he could be around for a little while longer, which is insane to say because he keeps winning and he keeps beating these up and comers as well. So yeah, 2 fights. The 2 fights, I think, off the top of my head, I think is like Rosenstrike fight again. Fight him, and then after that, Curtis Blades. I think Ngannou, and I don't think he's not going to get Ngannou because Ngannou is most likely going to fight Stipe. So if Jones is in there, you maybe can throw that one in, but no, it's got to be Rosenstrike and Blades. I think then definitely he's a shot.
Yeah, he's got to be feeling hard done by looking at Stipe Miocic, having those questions: did he tap or not? He could be heavyweight champion right now.
Stipe tapped Alistair Felton.
I know.
Alistair tapped Stipe Felton. I know I got it right first time.
It's okay.
I forgot that one mixed up in my head.
We move on to the co-main event. OSP came back, tried heavyweight. He looked okay at heavyweight, but didn't look his best. But he looked phenomenal on Saturday night, didn't he, Gary?
Yeah, it looked outstanding. Just his patience and being able to keep that distance and keep calm and using his kicks to keep Menifield away. Menifield as well, really good fighter. You'd be thinking, OSP looks a little slow now. Menifield's quite fast and sharp and young up-and-coming guy. But no, again, experience was the story of the whole night, and OSP just manages to keep him at that distance. And then obviously the knockout itself was absolutely spectacular. Perfect timing. Even maybe a little bit sloppy looking. It was a bit of a clubbing shot, but can't get any more beautiful than that.
Yeah, cool. Obviously, this fight was meant to happen, 2 weeks ago now. Unfortunately, was it OSP tested positive or Menifield tested positive for COVID? But it almost saved the night. It gave the little bit of edge of more excitement looking towards this fight, and you wanted to see it happen. But do you think maybe those extra 2 weeks could have played in the hands of OSP, perhaps?
They played in the hands of OSP.
I guess they're both in equal boats that they had to make the weight cut at the same time.
They both had to make weight. They both had to show up. They both,
He had to do it with COVID though as well. So that's
it's probably not helpful. But it's not as so. Whatever the deal was with OSP's test, if it was positive test, if it was a false positive, I'm unsure of that. But in the sense that they still had the 2 weeks. If they were both fit and healthy, they still had 2 weeks to train for this, to prepare for this, to make weight. It probably impacted both of them, the fact that they were prepared to make 205 2 weeks ago and now have to make it now. But no, it's a level playing field to go into this for me.
Yeah, and Gary, where does this almost put OSP in the rankings of light heavyweight division? Obviously, it's vacant at the moment. They're only 3 weeks now. But he left the light heavyweight division at quite a high point in terms. I think it was in the top 10 when he moved up to heavyweight. So do you expect him to go back in there and potentially? We saw him against John Jones a few years ago now. Could he be back on the rise, perhaps?
Could be, but they do have such a murderer's row at the light heavyweight division. Everyone that's in there seems to have only popped up within the last 4 or 5 years. You've got Jiri, Volkan, Rakic, even you could say Jan with his new sort of resurgence, Santos Reyes. So I just don't know if I'm fancying OSP to beat a consistent amount of those. It could maybe slot into the back end of the top 10. You've got Misha Sarkinov, Nikita Krylov, Anthony Smith. It could maybe go into that level, but yeah, I'm not too sure. I think it'll be top 15. I just don't know about top 10, because if Shogun can make top 15 at this point, I'm sure OSP can give it a crack. But yeah, I don't know if I see him
Bit biased.
consistently.
Paul Craig there, is that?
Yeah, well, Paul Craig should obviously be in the top. Actually, yes, he's 15th. Yeah, I'm okay with that then. That rematch has to happen. Stop ducking him, Shogun.
Happened in November, I believe. So we'll find out who really belongs to that top 15 then. But yeah, OSP, you got Johnny Walker, Ryan Spann. But as you said, I feel like this light heavyweight division with John Jones vacating the belt, it got a bit stale with John Jones at the top because he is so good and you're expecting anyone to go in there to almost already lose. But I feel like now we're probably going to see the title change hands 2 or 3 times within the next 12 or 18 months.
I don't know if OSP is going to be a part of that, but if he is, then after a performance like that, you know what, you could say he might have a shot at it still. He's tough. He's big, man. I think Ben Rothwell said it afterwards too. He's like, you don't realize how big he is. So, we could be all ruling him out, but kind of 6 months, 7 months, he could be up there, and we're all ruling him out.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be crazy. Do you expect him, obviously, Fight Island come back? Are you expecting a quick return for him? He's already fought twice this year.
Why not, man? Like,
he did take a lot of damage, though.
Very true. Very true.
How long would he have until Fight Island? Would he have 2 months minimum?
Yeah.
No.
If he about 4 weeks if he wanted to get on that end card at UFC 254.
Oh no, I think that'd be a serious turnaround. I think he could do it. I'm not sure if he does, but I think it'd be pretty cool if he did and he got a fight, and if it was in a fairly ranked fight, because like that, realistically, like I don't really the matchmaking there.
I don't even know if there was anyone really available for him. The likes of Spann and Walker already fighting each other and stuff like that, so you'd really be chucking them in at the deep end if you wanted them to fight if you were going for the top 10. So I don't know if there's many people ranked that make sense for him right now.
Definitely. Maybe give them Chimaev, who seems to be fighting week in, week out. Maybe he wants to start going ahead three different weight classes. But I'll let you know this: OSP and Overeem have the same reach at 80 inches. And you think how differently their weight classes are and where they fight, but same 80-inch reach for a light heavyweight in OSP. It's huge.
He's a big boy.
I would say he uses it better than Overeem as well. Overeem utilises his kicks and stuff like that more, but more in he'll use like a stomp kick, which he doesn't need the biggest distance to land. But OSP would really he uses right at the end of his punches. He keeps his little front kicks to kind of push you away so his hands will work. So I'd say OSP is one of the better reach fighters that we have around those sort of divisions.
Definitely. I could do the statistics for a performance of the night for him. 33 strikes landed, all of them significant strikes, well out of 80, 21 out of 43 total strikes for Menifield, and 19 of 40 of them were significant. So decent boxing match there.
Yeah, and it ended with that counter left that was insane. Oh my god. He walked off as well. Oh man. It was like he did him dirty. He was about to go in for a shot and then he's like, nah, and just walks back, just walks away.
Yeah, he realised he was sleeping.
Yeah.
But no. Someone who was very disrespectful, you could almost say, was Michel Pereira. He puts a lot of people. He's a bit Marmite at the moment. People either love him or hate him because of the gamemanship he has inside the octagon. But Quilter, what performance! I was going into this one a little bit negative towards him because obviously he's lost to Diego Sanchez, a couple that he'd had. I felt like his mind wasn't. I thought he maybe not had been mature enough yet for the UFC because he's got a fantastic talent, a fantastic work rate. But I feel like sometimes maybe his mind goes into starting to play with the opponent already, and he comes there a little bit too soon rather than actually fighting his fight. But he impressed me this weekend, I must admit.
Maybe he's playing games, to get in the head of these people, to make him, to make them risk something. I know he's risking a lot doing it, but he could be just playing games and he's trying to get into their head. No, I liked him. I think he's fresh. That night was that night had potential to be so boring, and all I could think about was like, look, if there's only 7 fights, I know this lad is going to come out here and he's going to be throwing some absolutely mad stuff. And he did. He was great. No, I think he's good for the division. He looked good. He was the stoppage, I guess. It's just That was the one where that was a small bit
Yeah.
controversial, but he was piecing him up, so I had no issue with being stopped anyway. He was piecing up in the feet. He looked good. Yeah, and the slap. Don't forget about the slap. He's a refresher for that division.
That was so disrespectful to watch him slap him in the face like that repeatedly as well. Kissing his hand, opening it up and leaving it there for a good couple of seconds. And Paul Delling could do nothing about it. I think it's probably Stockton slap is known for its almost the number one slap element, but I think Pereira might just overtaken that spot with that.
Oh, big words.
Hey, it was so
Nick
disrespectful.
Diaz is coming back. Now we know who his first opponent is, Mitchell.
Oh yeah, so we've got the BMF title for Nate. Do we do Nick versus Pereira for some sort of slapping tournament? Is that where we go now?
I think there's a separate sport for slaps.
That Russian slapboxing thing that was big for a few months.
Obviously, do you reckon, Gary, I'll ask you this. What sort of presence, there's obviously no fans in the arena. I think Pereira almost uses the fans to his advantage or something. He works off that sort of atmosphere very well. He comes out dancing, takes 10 minutes to get to the octagon and already gasses himself up. But it was none of that this weekend. He just made his walk to the apex, into that octagon, the smaller octagon, and he did perform superbly. There's nothing you can say about it, really.
Yeah, I'm much more of a fan of him from this fight than I have been the other ones. Things like doing a backflip and stuff, it's cool and everything, but unless it's actually going to benefit you in there, it's completely pointless to do. And obviously I do like the gamesmanship and stuff, but it's different from throwing out a dance or something like that and doing something like a backflip that's going to tire you out. So yeah, he looked much better. And now he's using his sort of unorthodox stuff to benefit him in the cage. Things like his amazing springboard Superman punch that he does off the cage. They come out of nowhere, and it's actually functional. It's not that he's trying to do Mortal Kombat rainbow kicks every 2 seconds. He's actually using his unorthodox, strange style to do stuff. And I couldn't stand him before this fight as well. Everything like the Diego fight, Diego stood there looking like his AI had shorted out, and Pereira didn't even know what to do himself. And you're like, how are you getting out madness by Diego Sanchez standing still, not doing anything? But at least in this, when he came out, it looked like he actually wanted to win. I wouldn't necessarily say he was disrespectful, because you saw Ahmadayev before the weigh-ins and stuff. He's not exactly the most respectful guy himself at times. So Pereira did what he wanted to do in there, looked great, looked calm, looked like he had his cardio issues down a little bit more. So yeah, a lot to come out of him, I think, now.
Yeah, definitely. It was almost frustrating watching Ahmadayev, of course, because especially I think it was in that first round, right at the end of like 10 seconds, where Pereira was just bouncing back and forth with his hands down, and he put the hands behind his back for a good 6 or 7 seconds, just walking back. And Ahmadayev didn't throw anything. He must have, whether he just froze on the night, or he's anticipating Pereira to do something almost outlandish, almost in there. It must be it's one of those styles which you get put up against and you go, oh, I don't want to do that tonight.
Yeah. It's, when you see the punches coming, though, they're the ones that you can take. So if Pereira's dropping his hand saying, come and hit me, that's exactly what he wants Ahmadayev to do. So part of the fight is for Ahmadayev not to do what Pereira wants him to do. So obviously, once in a blue moon, Chris Weidman will land that punch and I'll hate him forever for it. But in this case, Ahmadayev probably wasn't thinking he was going to be unorthodox enough or quick enough, and he thinks he's just setting me up for a highlight reel, so I'll just chill out and I won't throw that punch. But when you start to get to the third round, you're probably down to, that's the time where you go, go for the head kick at this point, do whatever. As soon as he drops his hands, that's only an opportunity in the third round when you're 2 down.
Yeah, I think he must gain the most aggression after that first round once the bell went. Those two kept at it. I think he did feel a bit disrespecting then. Obviously, there was some bad blood going in there from the weigh-ins, which,
Disrespect seems to follow Ahmadayev around, might I just add. I'm pretty sure it was before, I was thinking about it there, I was like, he fought Max Griffin. I had to click in there just to make sure. And before that Max Griffin fight, I remember Max Griffin being like, he got kicked out of Extreme Couture. He followed someone to the parking lot after a fight, after a sparring session or something, or a wrestling class. He threw a flying knee in one of the 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsus, I think it was. It was Jiu-Jitsu. He threw a flying knee in a Jiu-Jitsu class, apparently, according to Max Griffin. I think I saw the article. I think it was an interview by someone. I must go find that again. But yeah, it just seems to follow that man around.
Definitely. For Pereira, what's next for him? There's a couple of fights in my mind that I'd be buzzing to see, but have you got anyone in mind that you want him to be up against next?
Realistically, I don't really think that he's going to be.
He's not getting that much fight, is he? After that call out.
No, man, he's not getting anyone in the top 15 in the slightest. I think after his debut against Danny Roberts and then that fight, people, that fight particularly looked quite good. I would love to see him fight Diego Sanchez again. Just because that league, Diego Sanchez saw a way out and he took it.
Well, you saw him this weekend. He put a post up on Instagram, I believe, being like, he almost credited himself for not getting knocked out by Pereira and said that all the defense mechanisms that he'd been trained on and been working with his training partner had almost been benefited it. It almost, gave him validation that he came in there with the right game plan on the night.
Well, I'm pretty sure he was 2 rounds down. If I can recall correctly, he was 2 rounds down to Pereira before that knee.
Yeah, man. He'd make a good point though. He said that he didn't get cut in that fight, and Diego Sanchez is the type of guy that gets cut while walking at the cage. So the fact that he came out of that without any blood in him, that's his best performance that he's ever had.
It's the new coach. It's the new corner.
He's hardened his skin.
There you go.
Definitely. I think, personally, Mike Perry would be a fun one just because of the back and forth those two would have. Again, I know he's hot topic it recently. Chimaev would just go in there. You've got 2 people that aren't going to back down. But I see you there shaking your head. Brian Barberena, perhaps. He's on the cusp of that top 15. He's probably in 20 or 19th at the moment.
Who?
Pereira, perhaps.
Not a hope.
You don't think so?
No, I think, I know he beat Danny Roberts and he lost his next 2 afterwards, but he just beat a lad who was on a 2-fight skid.
Yeah, perhaps.
I think there's one he could do that's a quick route to the top, and it's something he might actually be able to pull this one off, is Anthony Pettis. Pettis is the type now, he's looking for all of the sort of more fun fights. He's not too interested in rankings anymore, and if Pereira wanted to call him out and say who can spin the best in a fight, I think he might be able to convince Anthony Pettis to take that one.
Lads, I love Pereira, but my God, I can't agree with these.
Do you think he'd beat Anthony Pettis if he fought him though?
No.
I think the size difference would be Anthony Pettis fought at featherweight recently. Pereira looks like he's coming in as a heavyweight.
Yeah, but Anthony Pettis knocked out Stephen Wonderboy Thompson at welterweight. I don't want to hear
about that one either. That's the ones. How have we brought up Anderson versus Weidman and Thompson versus Pettis in the one conversation?
Yeah, it would be interesting, but that welterweight division's absolutely, it's incredible at the moment. Although don't mention Leon Edwards at the moment because he might cry with what he's seeing going on in that division. He's still not got his title shot or a fight booked yet. He's getting absolutely robbed at the moment. But Pereira, he's in a good spot there, and he's done some good work this weekend, and he probably was the highlight of the night, perhaps. Gary, who was your fighter of the week?
Could have been Pereira. You got the knockout from over in St. Preux, and I'd maybe edge OSP for my fighter of the week just because I think that was the most surprising and maybe the most dominant compared to what we were thinking. I thought there was no way Pereira was going to lose to Amadaev anyways. When you look at Amadaev's record, a lot of those 8 wins are coming from guys that don't have a single win. So I was thinking Pereira was having that all day, whereas I didn't see OSP coming through, especially with that sort of performance either. And I'd say maybe the stoppage, maybe it will be there with Muniz. Maybe he could have took the stoppage of it, but I'd say maybe OSP for me, who doesn't look at it like a big knockout.
Quota, fight of the week for you?
Oh man, I was thinking I don't know, I was between OSP and Pereira. I think because Pereira pieced him up, he looked good in there, and it was just different than this. I think because I was looking forward to him the most because I knew he's going to do some crazy stuff. I'm gonna give it to him. But in terms of actual how they finished the fight, OSP all day, that was amazing. But no, I'm gonna give it to Pereira for overall performance just because.
Definitely. I think that's a good place to leave it there, guys. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Of course, we're on the road to 10K now. Make sure to hit that like button and drop these two guys a follow. They're at to be on the screen just below here, of course. And we'll see you guys on the next video.